Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. I'm just going to introduce myself and my colleague, who both of us will be presenting this today. My name is Meera Raja. I'm the head of VAT for James Cooper Preston. My colleague, Toby Thorne, is a VAT manager within the team. We collectively, in the team, we have over 70 years of VAT experience, so you guys are in good hands. We're going to post a question to start with, just to understand how many of you are aware of Making VAT Digital. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that. Okay, we currently have 29. The question is, do you think you need to be registered for Making VAT Digital? The answers are yes, no, don't know. It's quite interesting. We have 29% say they don't know. So we will have a recap on this towards the end. I'm hoping by then you guys will know yes, no answer. And if not, we wouldn't have done our job properly. Okay, what is Making Tax Digital? So Making Tax VAT Digital is an HMRC initiative designed to make sure the UK tax system is effective, efficient, and easier for taxpayers through the implementation of a fully digitalized tax system by 2020. So VAT is the very first one to go live from 1st of April 2019. Making Tax Digital for VAT requires VAT registered businesses with taxable turnover above the VAT registration threshold of 85,000 to keep records in digital form and file their VAT returns using a compatible software. So basically, it only applies for people who has got taxable turnover over 85,000. So the purpose of this is to cut errors and reduce the tax gap. There are some dispute currently within the accountancy provision as to whether the transposition errors or spreadsheet formula errors account for much tax loss. According to HMRC, it is a huge tax loss. It is debatable. Basically, at the moment, if you are doing the VAT returns on Sage, say for example, Sage 0, QuickBooks, you have the VAT summary sheet with boxes 1 to 9. And then we take these figures and we manually enter them on HMRC portal. What this will allow us to, what HMRC don't want is any duplication or any errors when we are manually entering these figures. By going digital, we will use this software and we will directly submit this via the software system. So HMRC currently estimates 25% of all VAT registered businesses use Excel or manual paper records. So therefore, Making Tax Digital is definitely going to affect any of those 25% which are trading above the 85,000 threshold. So I did touch on this taxable turnover. Very quickly, I'm going to very briefly talk about the taxable turnover. What is the taxable turnover? And the taxable turnover, there are 3 taxable rates, being standard rated, reduced rate, zero rate, all of which are taxable turnover and count towards a registration threshold. There's one other point I would like to make is it's also reverse charge purchases also count towards the VAT registration threshold. So this is something for you to be aware of. Reverse charges is the supplies you receive from outside the UK. For an example, if you receive a supply for £100 and we add the 20% to it, so the £20 goes taken as sales and also purchases. So because we take that as sales, it'll have an impact on the turnover figure. So what if you are trading below 85,000 threshold? So businesses with taxable turnover less than 85,000 have a choice, which is a good thing. So you continue to submit your return via the HMRC website. I would like to make a point here. Some of the accountancy firms have issued notices to say the HMRC portal where you log in currently to submit your return will be there on the 1st of April, and which is not true. It will be there. So anyone who is under the threshold of 85,000, you can continue to do this. Or you can voluntarily choose to submit using the correct software. But what you must remember is once you use this Making Tax Digital route, then you can't switch back to the manual way of submitting HMRC. And that applies to both, whether you are voluntarily registered or compulsorily registered. So once you go on it, you need to do both. You can't chop and change as and when you like it. Once you register for it, you need to stay with it. But this is expected, even though the people who are under the 85,000 threshold who don't have to do it from 1st of April 2019, we would think this will eventually everyone will have to do it. And I will probably give maybe a couple of years, and then I'm sure HMRC will come back and say it is compulsory for everybody. So the next bit is, we've had a lot of questions. People have asked, are there any exemptions? Yes, there are currently. So, there's few exemptions. The three which I'm going to talk about is if your business is run entirely by practicing member of religious society whose beliefs are incompatible with the requirements of the regulations. For an example, those religious beliefs prevent them using computers. And the second one is, it is not reasonably practicable for you to use digital tools to keep your business records or submit your returns. The example for this is due to age, disability, remoteness of the location, or any other reasons. The third one is you are subject to an insolvency procedure. If you have existing exemption from online filing for VAT currently, they are expected to be carried over automatically to Making Tax Digital for VAT. Those are not currently exempt from VAT online filing may find it difficult to persuade HMRC. And if you do think that you will fall under this, I would advise you to contact the VAT helpline before 2019 April. But in fact, you should really do it as soon as possible. As all of us know, it is not easy to get through to HMRC VAT helpline. So it can be frustrating if you leave it till like January, February time. The number of calls are going to increase, and it'll be, they may not be able to get back to you soon. So I would strongly advise you guys to speak to HMRC. If you need any help with that, we can help you with that too. If Making Tax Digital for VAT taking effect? This is an interesting topic, as many, including us, initially, there was a confusion when they say 1st of April 2019. When is the precise timing of this introduction? So we have given you some time there, the following time. If you submit monthly VAT returns, the April return, April 2019 period will be your first Making Tax Digital return, because it started after the 1st of April. Your VAT return submission is due after the 1st of April 2019, so therefore your first period will be April 2019. If you submit quarterly returns ending March, then your first Making Tax Digital return will be June 2019, because March is gone 1st of April, May, June, so your first quarter will be June 19 quarter. And if your quarterly return ending April, your first return period will be July. So it's after the April period. So you submitted quarter ending April, and then your July period will be your first period. If you submit quarterly returns ending May, then your first full period will be August 2019. I'm happy to take questions on any of these. So please do ask any questions if you're still confused about this, when will be your first return. How the information is going to be submitted for HMRC and the details of it. Now I'm going to hand you over to my colleague Toby Thorne, who will take you through the details of how to submit these details to HMRC.
Thanks, Mira. Afternoon, everyone. So, how is the information submitted to HMRC? The information submitted to HMRC must always be via an application programming interface, or API for short. While HMRC expects most businesses to use API-enabled commercial software packages, both to keep the records and file their VAT returns. However, there will be alternatives available. First one being bridging software. So bridging software is a digital tool that will connect the accounting software to HMRC systems. And the other alternative is API-enabled spreadsheets. These are spreadsheets that incorporate the relevant MTD APIs. And they can either combine with existing accounting software or be used to keep digital records and then directly submit the required VAT information digitally to HMRC. It's just worth noting, for both of these to be compliant, there will need to be digital links between softwares or spreadsheets, and we will go into a bit more detail on exactly what these are later. So, what do you need to do? What you need to do depends on how you're currently maintaining your records. So if you are maintaining manual records, spreadsheets, or if you're using commercial accounting software, Xero, Sage, etc. For those using manual records and are within scope of MTD, you will no longer be able to keep your records in this way. Your records will need to be kept digitally, and this can either be on a spreadsheet or a commercial software. Records that are not specified by HMRC, so in the VAT notice for MTD, there are some records that do not need to be kept digitally, or if the records are not required to complete your VAT return, these do not need to be kept in the functional compatible software. Again, we will go into more detail what is and isn't required shortly. Just a note that there are some records that must be kept in their original form, an example being a C79 import VAT certificate. These are still required to be kept in their original form and not digitally. So, spreadsheets. As I just mentioned, one solution to keeping your records is in spreadsheets, or you may already be using spreadsheets currently. Businesses can continue to maintain their records and prepare VAT returns on spreadsheets, but will need to acquire a suitable compatible software product to be able to submit their VAT returns via MTD. Or another alternative is that you could appoint an agent to submit returns on your behalf. Yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah. So, functional compatible software. This is either the bridging software or API-enabled spreadsheets that I mentioned earlier. And this compatible software is a software program or set of software programs or applications that must be able to record and preserve digital records, provide HMRC information and returns using the API platform, and also receive information from HMRC via the API platform. So this means it'll be a two-way. It will send information to HMRC via the API platform, but it will also receive information back from the API platform. Now, there are software products available that will perform all of the functions listed above, whereas some software programs are not. For example, a spreadsheet or other software product that is capable of recording and preserving digital records may not be able to perform the other two functions listed above, but can still be a component of functional compatible software if it is used in conjunction with one or more programs that do perform those functions. The complete set of digital records to meet MTD requirements do not all have to be held on one place or in one program. Digital records can be kept in a range of compatible digital formats, and then taken when these are all put together, these form your digital records. HMRC have produced a list of approved software providers, a number of which are bridging software and API-enabled spreadsheet providers. Moving on to accounting software. So, all established software providers have amended their products to allow submission of the returns direct from their software and have obtained prior approval from HMRC so that their products meet the technical specifications. As mentioned previously, HMRC have produced a list of approved software providers, currently 45 to date, which includes Xero, Sage, QuickBooks, amongst others. Therefore, if you're using one of these, or due to MTD taking effect, you decide to move on to one of these softwares, and you submit your VAT return through the software, not via your online account, you will be compliant with MTD. So yeah, for you guys that are already on one of the established software providers, the switch to MTD might be quite straightforward. Please be aware that not all existing Sage products include the function to submit VAT returns from the software, and therefore will require a purchase of an MTD module that they're going to bring out shortly. It all depends on what version you have, whether you have phone support, if it's cloud-based or not. It can be quite complicated. So if you have any queries as to whether if you think you're going to be compliant or not, and you are currently on Sage, just get in touch and we can try and help you out. As with anything, there are some potential problems or issues. Now, with MTD, there are some potential issues, being group VAT consolidations, partial exemption calculations, TOMS calculations, capital goods scheme adjustments. If you've got multiple business streams, or you may have bespoke accountancy software. This has been quite a hot topic, and a number of our clients have already asked us this. And for group VAT registrations, whereby you even might use a compatible accounting software, but have to consolidate your group VAT returns on a spreadsheet, it appears that these businesses are also going to need to acquire an additional piece of functional compatible software to be able to submit their VAT returns to HMRC, which is not ideal. I have been in touch with one of our contacts at Xero this week, who have said that they may be, or are trying to, create a piece of software to solve this issue. But we'll just have to watch this space, as nothing has been confirmed yet. For partial exemption and TOMS adjustments, you're required to adjust your input tax claims or your output tax you owe according to the rules. You must record this adjustment in the software, However, only the total for the adjustment needs to be in the software and not the detailed calculation behind it. Likewise, for the capital goods scheme adjustments, the calculation can be done in a separate spreadsheet and may need some form of input by hand into the software that will send your VAT return information to HMRC. But again, HMRC recognises this, and this is okay. Now, I mentioned digital links earlier, so we'll just go into a little bit more detail as to exactly what they are now. A digital link is an electronic or digital transfer or exchange of data between software programs, products, or applications. Basically, once the data has been entered into the software used to keep and maintain your records, any further transfer, recapture, or modification of that data must be done using digital links. Each piece of software you use must be digitally linked to other pieces of software to create the digital journey. A digital link can include a formula in one spreadsheet that mirrors the source and value in another cell, whereas cutting and pasting data from one spreadsheet to another is not a digital link. So an example is, it's not acceptable to cut and paste a list of sales from a spreadsheet to an accounting program, but it is acceptable for data to be transferred from one spreadsheet to another using a formula between cells. Now, penalties for non-compliance. So HMRC are allowing a period of time for businesses to get in place the necessary digital links. They're calling it a soft landing. So for the first year, being VAT periods between the 1st of April 2019 and the 31st of March 2020, businesses will not be required to have digital links between software programs. For this year, where a digital link has not been established between software programs, HMRC will accept the use of cut and paste as being a digital link. But our advice would be, if you can make it a digital link in the first year, then problem solved. You've got it there for going forward. The one exception as to where a digital link is necessary from the 1st of April 2019 is where the data is transferred to the API-enabled software solely for the purpose of submitting your 9-box VAT return. That link has to be digital, and there's no soft landing for that. That comes in 1st of April 2019. It's just worth noting that this light touch is not expected to include the default surcharge. These rules are likely to remain the same. Therefore, even during your first year, you will still need to submit and pay VAT returns on time to avoid being put on a default surcharge. Therefore, if you cannot submit your VAT return via the MTD route, then you should submit it via the government gateway account as pre-MTD, so as not to be put on a default surcharge. Do not hold off submitting your return due to non-compliance of MTD. As I mentioned earlier, what records need to be kept digitally? The requirement to keep digital records does not mean that businesses will have to scan and store invoices and receipts digitally. Businesses can continue to keep documents in paper form if they prefer, but each individual transaction, not the summaries, will need to be recorded and stored digitally. HMRC are encouraging records to be kept in as near to real time as possible, but it will still be possible to create the digital records at quarterly intervals using a bookkeeper or agent. The regulations require the following records to be kept digitally, and you can see there's designatory data, data for supplies made, and data for supplies received. it's just worth noting for multiple supplies in the supplies made, if they're subject to the same rate of VAT and are made at the same time, these do not have to be recorded separately. You can record the total value of the supplies on each invoice that has been the same time of supply and rate of VAT charged. And then likewise for supplies received, if there is more than one supply on an invoice, the business can record the totals from the invoice. They don't have to split out the various different supplies. Any exceptions? So yes, there are some exceptions in terms of record keeping for retail schemes, for flat rate scheme, margin schemes, and records maintained by third parties. So the exception for the retail schemes is that retailers will be able to record the gross daily takings, not weekly, monthly, or quarterly, rather than each individual transaction. So there doesn't have to be a digital link between the tills and the accounting records. Recording the daily totals in the digital accounting records meets the requirements. For the flat rate scheme, this will continue, and digital records of supplies received will not be required unless they relate to capital items of more than £2,000, including VAT. If your software does not include a flat rate scheme setting and does not allow you to include a rate of VAT other than standard rate, reduced rate, 0, then you will need to record the supply as either one standard rated supply and one 0 rated supply, or you can record the sale at one rate and correct the VAT through an adjustment at the end of the period. For margin schemes, the additional records required for margin schemes and the calculation of the marginal VAT charge do not need to be kept in digital form. These records still need to be maintained in some format, just not digitally. And again, as with FRS, if your software does not allow you to record the VAT on the margin, you will need to record the supply as either one standard rated supply and one 0 rated supply, or you can use the records that sale at one rate and correct the VAT through an adjustment at the end of the period. Finally, records maintained by third parties. The regulations allow HMRC to relax the digital record keeping requirements where it would be impossible, impractical, or unduly onerous to comply. HMRC is using this power to allow supplies made by third parties to fall outside the digital record keeping requirements until the point at which the agent supplies the information. This allows a summary received from an agent to be treated as a single invoice to create a digital record. The example given is that of a letting agent. Thank you. I'll hand you back over to Mira now, who will cover the last few points, and then we'll take any questions at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Toby. Right, there are a few miscellaneous points that I'm going to cover. One of them, which being is reverse charge transactions. If your software records reverse charge transaction, you do not need separate entries for those self-supply and purchases. If your software does not record these reverse charge transactions, you will need to record reverse charge transactions twice, once as a supply made and the second time as a supply received. So this is again is something how your software is set up at the moment, and you know if it is working it out now, you don't have to worry about it. If it doesn't, then there should be two entries, one for supply made and second one is for supplies received. Voluntary updates. VAT updates is a feature of Making Tax Digital that will be available at a future date. This is on HMRC portal. They will allow businesses to provide VAT information to HMRC outside of the VAT return voluntarily. For example, you got a large payment to make, or it's a one-off payment and you want to tell HMRC about it. So this will allow you to do that. Or you have a large repayment and you want to let them know without delaying the repayment. You want to give them some information. This will allow you to do that. But the update will include different information as well, how it's submitted relating to one particular VAT return. We do not have full information on this. HMRC is still releasing notices about it. They will be published in due course. We will also update you guys as soon as we hear more about this. Supplementary data, again, this is a feature of Making Tax Digital that will be available at a future date. It will be voluntary. HMRC will specify what supplementary data will be, but broadly this will be information that supports the Box 9 VAT return, which Toby touched on earlier. So again, you will be able to submit supplementary data each time you submit voluntary VAT update or VAT return. Further information, further details will be published in due course, and we will let you know that. And the final one on that is, there are some businesses who are not eligible to register for VAT, but they are eligible to claim the VAT on a form called VAT 126. So we had a question from a school who is a client of ours. They are an academy that submit VAT 126 claims and wondered whether the Making Tax Digital affected this. The answer is no. So those people will continue to do this form and they will claim the input tax via the VAT 126 form. Are there any changes? Just want to touch up on, are there any changes? No, there aren't changes to VAT. This is where some of the people are getting confused. Is it going to change anything on VAT rules? The underlying VAT rules will remain the same. The amount of information required to be submitted to HMRC will remain the same. And the current filing and the payment deadlines will also remain the same. So there's not going to be any changes on that. How can we help? As I mentioned, collectively, we have over 70 years of experience on doing VAT. And if you have an established software provider already, if it's a cloud-based one, switching to Making Tax Digital is likely to be relatively straightforward. On the other hand, you may consider that Making Tax Digital is an opportunity to update your process around the production and submission of VAT return. And if you are currently maintaining manual records or solely use spreadsheets, this introduction of Making Tax Digital will affect you, and the current process will require changes, which really you should start making this as soon as possible, because one, you need to get used to the software, and also, you know, if that software is not suitable, and it gives you time to change before the 1st of April. And this is where we come in. Fortunately, unfortunately, we like doing VAT, so we are here to help our clients. We are pretty sad in that way that we like VAT. So we can help you in many ways. We can help you to choose the right software for your right business, whether you're small, medium, large, how you should go about it. And if we can give you training on that, and also we can hold hands until you are comfortable to do that yourself. So you may choose to do the first quarter with us or first year with us, and we can advise you on all of that. So please do get in touch with us and we can help you in making this easy for you guys. Okay, we posted a question at the beginning. Do you think you need to register for Making VAT Digital? I've only put yes, no answers. I've taken don't know question. If still people think they don't know, we certainly haven't done our job properly, but we will be quite happy to speak to you all in detail. So if you can, please vote. Okay, so I think this is pretty good. So we have got the people have got a bit more understanding now. There are some questions here which has been posted, which might be relevant to most of you or to everyone. One of the questions is if our VAT quarter ends 31st of March, we will submit our return mid-April. Will we have to do this one using Making Tax Digital? The answer is no, because it only affects from 1st of April 2019. So if your quarter ends in March, you don't need to do that via Making Tax Digital rule. It only applies to you for the June quarter. So it's from the 1st of April 2019. So from 1st of April 2019, a full quarter from 1st of 19 for April 2019. So for an example, if it's because your March year ending, March VAT return ending 31st of March is not due for submission until the 7th of May, because it's not a full quarter, it's not effective. You don't have to do that digitally. You only need to do the next one. So your first one will be June 2019. I hope I have answered that question. Please contact us if you still need more clarity on that. Toby, do you want to pick up on the flat rate scheme? Somebody has asked whether we could recommend a software for flat rate scheme. Yes, of course, we will get in touch with you.
So a small consultancy work through my own company. I'm on the flat rate scheme, turnover over 85,000. Currently my VAT return is very simple. Can you recommend any low cost, simple software packages, or might it be more efficient to get somebody else to file the returns? So we can only recommend softwares that we've used. So as I said, there's a list of 45 softwares currently available, and I would only feel comfortable recommending softwares that we've used. So it may be a case of having a look at that list and seeing if one looks like it would suit you. But the answer is yes, you are definitely going to have to use a software to submit your VAT returns. It may be simpler for you to go on to something like Xero, pay a monthly subscription. You'll know that you'll definitely be compliant. You can do it all through the one piece of software. It has the flat rate scheme function. So that could be that would be something that we would recommend, or you could possibly look into. But it'll probably come down to cost at the end of the day.
Okay. The next question we have is that we have no exemptions. We use an industry-specific software plus Sage. At the end of the month, we print list of all invoices raised from industry-specific software, then post the total net and VAT for the month to Sage. Will we not be allowed to do this anymore? For the first year, you're okay. But after April 2020, we'll need to have a digital link between both the software and the Sage. So you have 1 year for you to, they're allowing this, so 2019 you'll be fine, but from April 2020, you have to have this digital link. And hopefully by April 2019, we will have more details of this digital link and how you can use it, and we can help you with it at that time.
So it would be a case of exporting it and then re-importing it digitally, as opposed to rekeying it manually. It's the rekeying and the transfer of information needs to be done digitally, you're not allowed to rekey anything manually. So the printing off and then reposting it, you would need to export it and then import it into Sage to create that digital link. But as Mira said, we should hopefully have a bit more detail as to exactly what is and isn't allowed when we come up to April 2019.
Right. The next question is, if JCK is currently our BPO provider, including VAT services, do we have to do anything special? How does the MTD affect us as a client? If we are doing your currently on, most likely we'll be doing it on Xero, and we will continue with Xero, and instead of going into HMRC manually, we will be submitting the return via Xero, so that no, you don't have to do anything there. So we will take care of that. So that should be fine. So there's a last question there. What happens if you spot an error, like an incorrect country code being used for a customer, which will affect the data collected for the boxes between the end of the period and the date of submission? Right, these errors, they're still going to have these voluntary disclosures and how to correct the errors. That's not going to have any change in it. So you made an error, you want to correct it before you do the submission, then of course, yes, you can do the submission. You still have the time to correct it, and then you submit it correctly. But if you notice these errors after your submission, you still do it the normal way you would do. So you would notify the voluntary, error correction, and so tell them, so you will let them know. And you will do the journal entry or the correction after that, and which will get picked up in your next return, or you can tell them you have corrected it and this is how it's been rectified.
If there's any adjustment or correction that needs to be made, as long as it is made on your accounting software or on your spreadsheet digitally, then that's fine. And as Mira said, if it's of a certain size or over £10,000, then you would also need to do a voluntary disclosure, which is done manually, but then the adjustment can be done on your software or spreadsheet by yourselves digitally.
Right. Toby, you want to pick up on could you say a bit more on the VAT groups combined with partial exemption and how the software can cope with it? At the moment, there is, I think, one or two softwares we're going to be talking. We're going to be talking to Alpha Tax is going to come up with. We're going to have a meeting with them soon. They have said they have got the answer to this, and their software can calculate the partial exemption, and then it can come up with solutions for group and exemptions. So at the moment, what you can do is do the group and the partial exemption calculation, and you put the adjustment through your software as you do now, and then you file it on it. But then
so for partial exemption calculations alone, you can do the spreadsheet, you can do the calculation outside the software, and then put the journal entry in or adjustment through your software and submit it through your software. That's fine. With group VAT groups combined with partial exemption, at the moment, it looks like whether all the entities in the VAT group are on a compatible software or not, that information is going to have to be exported normally onto a spreadsheet, which is then consolidated. You then have to do your partial exemption calculation. At the moment, it looks like you are going to have to acquire an additional piece of software to be able to submit those final figures to HMRC. As I mentioned, we are in talks with Xero, who may be coming up with a solution to that, or, as Mira just said, other softwares out there like Alpha Tax say that they have the answer, where it will be able to export all of your data from your software, consolidate it, allow you to do the partial exemption calculation, and then submit it via that to HMRC. But unfortunately, at the moment, nothing's been confirmed. Nothing's been confirmed with us, and HMRC, when we know, we can let you know.
HMRC hasn't released exactly how to deal with the groups and exemptions, because they're also in discussion with many different software providers. So once we know that, we will be the first one to let you guys know. So we will keep you posted, and we will update you on a regular basis. And our clients who are affected on this, we will contact you directly to say how you should be doing this. And we can talk to you guys about it. The earlier question about making error corrections, whether the corrections has to be done or revised and redone, the answer is no different to what you're doing now. So if there is a, say you found an error now currently, and which is over £10,000, we do either, I think it's corrected on a journal entry, or if it is under 10,000, you will adjust, you do the journal entry, or you make that adjustment in your next return. That will continue, so you can still do that. So you would have to reverse what you've redone. That is to make the correction. If you want to do that, you redo it. If you want to redo it and then submit it, if you find the error before submission. If it's after the submission, you'll have to take the voluntary disclosure route depending on the amount of error. Okay, we have a question here. We currently have two divisions, one using Sage and another using Sage 50 and the other using Sage 200. We currently combine VAT return in Excel and submit online. I guess going forward, this won't be acceptable unless we can use an API Excel spreadsheet. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah, because I think you've just sent another question there saying, or move the Sage 50 to Sage 200. That won't be the answer, because you're going to still need to consolidate those figures. So those figures still need to be added together. So you don't want any one of those divisions having the other division's figures in its Sage. They need to be consolidated on a separate piece of software. Most commonly used is Excel. And then you're right. As it stands at the moment, you're going to have to acquire another piece of API enabled software, unless one of the big software providers comes out with a solution like Xero or Sage and provide an add-on to be able to do it. But as it stands, you're right. You're going to have to acquire an additional piece of software.
A follow-up question to this error correction. We've been told that currently you do the errors, you adjust it on a spreadsheet outside the system. You still do it, but then you need to add that you need to do a journal entry. You need to show that in your system how that error has been rectified. So at the moment, if you're doing a manual adjustment to your system, which is how it sounds like if you're doing it on a spreadsheet, you have that figure. So if there is a 10,000 more or 10,000 less, you do a journal entry so they can follow it if needs be. You would only from 1st of April 2019, I think they're only going to see box 1 to 9 figure. So the box 1 to 9 figure, you need to make sure that's correct. So in time to come, they might ask for details of how that has been combined. We need to have these records digitally because they could ask us for it, ask you guys for it. But as it stands, what you will submit is box 1 to 9 figures. So you need to do a journal entry for the error you've made.
Yeah, as it stands, it's the same as the partial exemption calculations. The calculation needs to be done, and if it's done in a spreadsheet, it needs to be kept in digital form. But you can then journal that adjustment into your software.
Right. There's another question which is quite interesting. When will the VAT records be submitted? After the tax period, as the VAT return works, or day to day, which the deadline submits records. We don't submit the records to HMRC. That hasn't changed at all. So we don't give them the records. Not yet. It might come. That could be the next stage. But what we only need to do, if we're doing a VAT return, you will send the records to us as normal. We will put the returns together and we will submit it online for them. All what HMRC will see at that point is from box 1 to 9 figure. we won't be re-inputting it. The only difference is it'll be done via the software.
So, so the deadlines haven't changed, as Mira mentioned earlier. No other VAT rules have changed. It's still a month and 7 days after the end of the period for quarterly VAT returns. So
there's no records to submit to HMRC other than the figures. Thank you very much for your questions, everybody, and thank you for attending. And I no doubt that you're going to go away and think about more. Please do contact us. You've got my details, you've got Toby's details, or you can also post your questions via our website. Thanks again, and hope you have found this useful. And if you do want our slides, you want a copy of our slides, please contact us and we'll be able to send you that through. Thanks again.
Thank you.